Everyone, welcome to your weekly edition of Show Me How It's Done. My name is Lauren Urbonis and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So first off, I'd like to start off by saying it is spring break, so I am recording with children still in the house, so knock on wood, we're able to get through this, but I will apologize in advance if I have to step away for you guys. But I have a beautiful card for you today. It's one that I'm featuring at my specialty class this month. I'm doing a Perennial Lavender Mega class, and my attendees, they get to come, they'll receive the Perennial Lavender stamp set, and they're going to make a whole plethora of cards using this entire suite. So the paper, the couple bundles that are included, some of the embellishments, and hopefully we'll walk away with a lot of different ideas. So I wanted to show you one of the cards that we're doing because I really thought it was a fun technique and a fun little way to use most of the pieces from this suite with minimal additions. So this is the card that I'm going to show you how to make, and the paper in behind is simply so that I can give you a little reminder here. So I got to peek at the new annual catalog while I was in Houston last week, and it is really, really cute. I will give you guys a mention that if you're somebody who's very used to the Stampin' Up! Catalogs, this is going to look a little different. It is definitely geared towards people who are just discovering Stampin' Up! That will be kind of your first impression. And if you give it a chance, the layout is actually really easy to follow, with the fact that you can easily find where your niche of crafting is. So that's all I'm going to say about the catalog, except for the fact that if you don't have a demonstrator and you need a catalog mailed to you, if you message me before the end of this month, I will get you on my mailing list. But in that new catalog, you will find the Perennial Lavender Suite, or sorry, I shouldn't say suite, I will say bundle. So the Perennial Lavender bundle is in that new catalog. However, the paper is usually never carried over, and it's not, so surprise, surprise. So if you love the paper and if you love this bundle, you probably should grab that now. And then the other part of this suite, the Perennial Postage bundle, this one is not carrying over. So if you like this and you like the card that I'm making, you probably want to grab this before it retires at the end of April. Okay? Make sure to check out my website, laurenurbonus.stampinup.net, on April 9th, because there will be a full list of everything retiring. There is a PDF posted already on my Facebook site, and you're welcome to read it, but it's always challenging because sometimes things are in French, sometimes there's bundles that really are not retiring, they're just not going to be a bundle anymore. So I just suggest April 9th, go on that site. There's going to be some things that are discounted up to, I think, about 50%, and it'll give you a really nice perspective on what you can order and what you might see still carrying over to the next catalog. So without further ado, I'm going to move some of this stuff and let's get crafting. Okay, so if you'd like to follow along with me, I will give you all the measurements. You can also just pause the video and go into the description, cut all your pieces, and then come back and join me too. So whatever works for you. The first thing you're going to want to start with is a basic white card base. So I've made this slightly smaller than our regular card base because, pardon me, I really just wanted a very subtle white border around. So if you're cutting this page, you're going to want it to be 3 7/8 by 10 1/4. Okay, and then if you're doing your score mark right in the middle, it will be at 5 1/8. So I'll give you that again because it's not a typical measurement. So 3 7/8 by 10 1/4, and do your score mark at 5 1/8. Will give you a little subtle card base here, and if you've got a bone folder handy, you can give it a nice press down. Now on the front of your card, we need a piece of designer series paper, and that Perennial Lavender has so many different patterns. You could really go crazy just picking the one that you like. You can make this in all different colors or different patterns, but I just picked the solid kind of green to start with. And this is going to be 3 3/4 by 5. So that page we're going to put some glue or tape or seal on the back of, and it should be ready to go for your card front. So very, very subtle white border. You'll hardly see it, but that's the point. It's there, but it's hardly there. There we go. Okay, now I guess before I go any further on the front, I should mention I like to decorate the inside. Even though white is something that's very easy for you to write on, sometimes it just makes it a little fancier if you can have some color in there, okay? So we're being a little counterproductive because we're gonna do a colored cardstock and then we're going back to white so you have something to write on, but it just makes a really big difference in how the card looks. So if you want to add this middle part here, you're going to cut one piece of gorgeous grape, and that will be 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. I know, very odd measurements on today's cards, but that's okay. That's why they're all written down in the description on the videos, so you can always hit pause and grab those. And then going back to your white piece, because now it's tricky to write on purple, we're gonna need a white piece that's 3 3/8 by 4 5/8. And you could always come back and maybe stamp something small in the center here later. But for the front of our card, we're going to move this base out of our way for a moment because we're going to do a little fun technique on this little postage piece. Okay, so do we remember these perennial postage dies? We're going to grab the second largest, so this one here, and that's going to be cut out of basic white cardstock for this piece right here. So there's no stamping on this, but we are going to take a bunch of linen thread and wrap it around to give a really fun background. These edges of the postage stamp are perfect little grooves for your thread to go into. And it doesn't matter where you start, you can go from the top or the bottom. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn this over and I'm going to tape my linen thread to one of the inner corners here. So my linen thread, I would probably just suggest leaving this on your spool because then you can use as much or as little as you need, because I have quite a bit cut here. I never actually measured how much it is. So let's grab a ruler here. 1, 2, 3. I've got at least 40 inches here, and that was just in anticipation of needing that much. So it's up to you guys. You can keep this on your spool and potentially save some, or take it off and then you'll just have to use whatever you have. Okay, so I'm going to just go at a slight diagonal and then come around to the other side and kind of make a little X. So that's one way to do it. Or what you can do is you can just go diagonal all the way up. So kind of looping, maybe three diagonals. Let's go 4. I could probably fit 4 in here. And then come back down the other way. And this is the fun part, is you can really just sit here and play however you'd like with this linen thread. I definitely cut myself just slightly longer than I needed, but it's still pretty close. So all you end up wanting is some sort of crisscross pattern in the back. Whether you go all the way up and then all the way down or back and forth, it's up to you. So once you're happy with that, you're going to make sure to tape the second piece down and then just trim off all the extras because we don't need that huge tail hanging out in the back. Okay, so tape that down and then trim. While this is still turned over, we're going to add some dimensionals to this piece, because whenever you add linen thread, it makes the paper really thick. And so you couldn't put a flat adhesive and put this onto the card. It wouldn't work very well. So we're going to grab dimensionals, which kind of give you a little buffer space for that linen thread to sit now. So you'll kind of have to weave them in and out of where your threads are. But as long as you've got a reasonable base here, you should be pretty good. I'll maybe add a couple more just to make my life easier. There we go. Once you take all the backings off, then you can bring your card base back, and we're going to put this right in the middle of that green designer paper. Right. So now we get to have a little bit more fun. So the next couple pieces we're going to add are basically just for some background look. So I'm going to be adding a little strip of vellum, this part back here, and a little strip of white. And those are to give kind of just a center focal point for us to build our little scene on top of, but it also is just a really subtle way to kind of draw your eyes to the center of your card. So you can really make these any measurement you want. You could have the vellum coming out further, but I thought it was nice and subtle this way. So my vellum strip is going to be 2 inches by 5 inches. And then my white strip is going to be 1 1/4 by 5. Now the way that we're going to layer this up here is we're going to start with the white on top of the vellum. And the reason we're doing that is so that whatever adhesive I put on the vellum, I'm going to hide behind my existing white strip. Okay, so let me show you. Doing tape, because that is my medium of choice, but you can use seal. I wouldn't really suggest glue for this, just because it might smear and it might come out kind of the sides of your paper onto the vellum, and that's not the nicest. So remember, these are the same length, so it's going to go right to the bottom, and we're just centering it in the middle of the vellum strip here. Okay, so now we're turning this over, and we're putting our dimensionals only where you see white. Don't put any on the clear spots, because that's going to show through. So you need maybe just a little strip of dimensionals here, and we'll put these right onto our card. Again, this is the full length of your card, so it's going to go all the way down, or I should say it's the full length of your designer series paper. So it's going to come all the way down and then all the way to the top of the designer series paper. Okay, it won't touch the white, and that's just a really subtle difference. Okay, so far so good. We're looking great. So now we're going to start cutting some little pieces from our little Perennial Lavender bundle. So I've got a couple little sprigs. These two I've cut with Lost Lagoon. I've cut 2 flowers, and this actually gets cut just with 1 die. It has both flowers in it. These I've cut in Highland Heather. Then I've grabbed myself a little butterfly, and it can be any of our butterflies. I have a few here. I don't know, what did I use? I think I used a tiny one. These butterflies, I should show you the package. They come from the Paper Butterfly Accents, and there's 48 of these, or 40 of these butterflies in one package. So there's 5 different sizes, but then 8 sheets of this. So you get a whole whack of these butterflies in this little package here. So I've chosen just this tiny little one for my card. So I've just brought him out. Don't need to do anything with that. The only thing we're going to do is a little bit of stamping for this little flower here. So I'm going to leave those for the moment, and I want to show you how I made this little stamped image. Okay, so it's really very, very simple, but super, super fun. Now, where did my scrap white? There we go. Okay, I've got a scrap white, and I've got my little flower mounted up on my block. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp with fresh Fresia all over that. And then I would like these dark purple flowers to show through. So I'm going to take my Gorgeous Grape Stampin' Write marker. You can't do this with a blend because it will dry too quickly. And I'm just going to color straight onto the photopolymer set. And it doesn't have to be pretty, just has to be kind of where a flower center would be. Make sure to give it a huff. And then you're going to put it on some scrap white. Leave it for a couple seconds because you do want that color to soak through. And then once you lift it, you have a beautiful two-tone flower that instead of having to do two sets of flowers right on top of each other, you've just used one flower and one die to cut that out. Okay, so I'm not going to do the die here. I'm just going to magically have this one in place and we'll continue with our card. So how you build it is really up to you. I really love glue dots for things that are this tiny and intricate. So I'm going to just start with some of my background details here. We're going to start with just one glue dot down at the bottom of my stem. And I've kind of tucked that one at an angle this way. And then an opposite angle. It's going to be this guy here. And that one, I don't know, can just tuck it down in here. We are covering some of these things, so don't worry about too much showing through. And then these little sprigs here, again, put one glue dot just somewhere that you think it'll hold. Tuck that down. This one we might end up having to trim off some of that bottom, and that's okay. We can do that once our tag is in place. It's easy to trim those things. And this large piece. Up in the middle here. There we go. And again, I'm just using a glue dot for this because I really want most of the flower to kind of be loose and hanging upwards. I don't want it being hidden. There we go. And your little butterfly, glue dot right in the middle. You might see it through a little bit, but only if you're looking. Okay, and that can cover just the very bottom of that flower. So now for our tag, this little guy did come from those Perennial Postage dies. However, the For You stamp wasn't from the coordinating set. I grabbed it from the Heartfelt Hexagon set because I just wanted something really subtle and cute. So I've grabbed For You my Gorgeous Grape Ink. This was fresh Fresia paper, if you're wondering. And that's going just right in the center. This guy we are going to pop up on dimensionals. And this can go right at the bottom of our little piece here. And then, like I mentioned, if you want to, you could easily trim that little piece off, the purple, but I actually think it doesn't look too bad, so I'm just going to leave it. Then the last thing that you can do, if you would like to add a few finishing touches, is some gems, because they're pretty and they're fun. So these are the purple fine shimmer gems. They came as part of the suite, and there's 3 different colors if you are able to see the very top row. There's Highland Heather, Gorgeous Grape, and these are Berry Burst. So if you want, you can add a couple of those just to kind of make your project come alive. And I don't have many left because I've been using them a ton. They are They do come in 2 sizes. There's the large and the small, but I think just for this card, I'm just gonna do 3 large ones because that's kind of what I've got left in my stash. There we go. And there's your cards. You can make them however you like, of course, but it's a really fun idea just to practice that stamp and coloring technique and for you to just play with the pieces that you have. So I hope you enjoyed the card. If you're interested in seeing some more of the projects that we did at the class, I will post some of them on my Instagram account. There won't be tutorials for everything. That's kind of the perk of coming to the class, but I hope you enjoyed them and I hope you're excited to play with your own Perennial Lavender set. Talk to you guys later and have a great week. Bye.